بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله السلام الله عليكم. I welcome everyone. Shaykh Yasir, يا مرحبا أهلا وسهلا بك.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله بارك الله فيكم حبيب.
You know, Shaykh Yasir, right before, when we were getting set up here in Sajjad's studio, Sajjad handed me this.
Allah.
And every time he hands me this book, the Dalail Khayrat, I see it, it makes me happy. And I think it's a reminder, Shaykh Yasir, to all of us in this crazy times as we're witnessing this world and everything that's happening, where do we find our peace and where do we find our sincerity?
Allahu Akbar. مع الحبيب صلى الله عليه وسلم.
Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik alayhi wa ala alihi. Yeah, Shaykh Yasir, you send prayers upon the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa ala alihi. It brings peace to the heart. It brings calmness. It brings a sense of ease. And people take these spiritual remedies for granted. I do it once or twice a day, but we shouldn't, should we, Shaykh Yasir?
No, certainly not. And I think many of us are familiar with the hadith of the man who came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, Ya Rasulullah, if I were to make a quarter of my dua, my supplications, i.e. when I raise my hands and I say, Ya Allah, what if I were to make a quarter of that dua? Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. He said, It would be good if you do more, be better. What if I were to make half of my dua? He said, good, if you do more, be better. 3/4, good, do more, be better. What if I were to make all of my dua? Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Sayyidina Muhammad. He said, إِذَن تُكْفَى هَمُّكَ. Then your ham, all the stuff, and we're waking up every single day and going to sleep every single day with humum, with concerns, with worry, with stress. And so Al-Habib sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when invoked, these humum, these concerns are taken care of, they're sufficed. And the sins that block so much benefit, so much blessing, are forgiven. Allahumma salli wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad.
Yeah, absolutely. And I found in my life in general, like the more that I'm in tune and the more prayers upon the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa ala alihi that I'm sending, the more I actually feel at peace. And we do that by saying, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad. And it's interesting, Shaykh Yasir, I remember Shaykh Ahmed ibn Ajiba, he narrates this narration amongst other great scholars, spiritual scholars of Islam, that when the Messenger of God sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa ala alihi told the companions that 3 things of your dunya were made beloved to me, and the narration goes on as to what those were, that Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu arda, and imagine the humum that Sayyidina Abu Bakr had. I mean, he loved the Prophet alayhi sallam, he loved Allah azza wa jal, but he was going through all of these difficulties. He got beat, he was attacked, all of these harms were happening to him. So he had to process all that. And he comes to the Messenger of God والسلام, one day and he says, "O Messenger of God, 3 things of this world were made beloved to me." And he says, number 1, as-salah alayk, sending prayers upon you. Wal julus bayna yadayk, and sitting with you, among you. And number 3, an-nadharu ilayk, just looking at you. Allah ya Rabbi ya Kareem. So, Shaykh Yasir and I were talking about all these different issues, and we have a ton of issues to talk about, today, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, and we're going to be talking about every week. This is a reminder to myself and to everyone, and a reminder between Shaykh Yasir and I, that we find our peace and serenity in the same place that we're telling everyone else to find peace and serenity. The book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the prayers upon Al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa ala alihi. If there's anything else you wanted to share with everyone about that, Shaykh Yasir, before we continue to move on, bi'idhnillah.
Just how those beautiful notions of how Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam kind of orbits the reality of the likes of Sayyidina Abu Bakr. And what I do when I put them down for khalas for the night, may Allah bless all of our children and the children of Gaza, ya Rab, those beautiful angels. And subhanAllah, I'm sure all of us have been looking at our children very differently these days, ways that we've never looked at them before. But if they're a little extra rowdy and stuff, I put them down, we do our routine, turn on the adhkar, do the dua for sleeping, and then I tell them that's it. After we do the dua of sleeping, you're only allowed to think of one thing: seeing the Prophet ﷺ in your dream. That's the only thing they're allowed to think about. So I focus their energy. I tell them you can't think about anything else. You close your eyes, and inshallah tonight you see. And so they close their eyes and they say, okay, inshallah, maybe tonight, right? So and then and what's powerful about that, just as a practice, is that it just it settles them. It calms them down. It gives them a direct focus. All the chaos in the mind and the heart turns off, and it's just I have a singular focus. Al-Habib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
You know, what's really interesting, you're sharing this right now, is because, you know, we had our Thursday majlis last week, and I was sitting with all the brothers, and I passed on to them something that Shaykh Muhsin passed on to me. Shaykh Muhsin Najjar, one of the great lovers of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa ala alihi in our time. You know, if you want to learn how to love the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam and seek ease and peace and serenity, you have to be around someone that loves him alayhi salatu wasalam. It's not going to just be learned by reading a book. We're under this impression that if I read the book, I know the Prophet. No, you know the Prophet by being with those that love him. And just like you told your children that that's what they need to do, Shaykh Muhsin, he gave me a prescription, a spiritual prescription. You know, you go to the pharmacist and you tell them I have a cold, I have a cough, and what do they give you, Shaykh Yasir? Take some Advil and ibuprofen here and take this. You go to a spiritual doctor, they see your states, they give you what you need to help your spirit remove any sicknesses that he has. So he tells me, Moutasem, before you go to bed, as you're laying down on your side, I want you to think, imagine as if you're going to visit the Messenger of God, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa ala alihi. He goes, and really envision that in your spirit and mind. And he goes, take your subha, your prayer beads, you know, put them close to your heart. If you can, no problem. And just repeat 100 times, Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi. ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. And then he goes, go to sleep on that state. Allah. And so, mashallah, you know, it was something by Allah's rahmah I practiced, and it was something that bore so many beautiful fruits. So if anyone's listening to this, do that every night. Do what Shaykh Yasir tells his kids to do and what Shaykh Muhsin told us to do. Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi. Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I wasn't intending to speak about Sayyidina Nabi. Well, I always want to speak about Sayyidina Nabi, Shaykh, yes. But it just...
كل إناء بما فيه ينضح.
الله أكبر.
كل إناء بما فيه ينضح. Every vessel puts forth that which is inside of it. I know your Habib. I know your love for Al-Habib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah. You and I have been on multiple, you know, we've been together on journeys of mahabba with the and alhamdulillah, I know my testimony for you in front of Allah is that, Ya Allah, I know that my dear brother is a lover of Al-Habib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. May Allah always use you to be a vehicle and a conduit to show that love and to express that love and to teach that love, Ya Rabbi.
I mean, for all of us, Habib, Shaykh Yasir, for all of us. So, Shaykh Yasir, yesterday I was sitting at home in my living room, and my teenage son, Muhammad, he comes to me, he says, Baba, did you see what Top G said? I said, Top G? I'm like, who's Top G? He's like, Andrew Tate whooped Piers Morgan. And so there's an interview that came out yesterday, so I'm going to ask Sajjad.
That's a stark transition. That's a stark transition from Al-Habib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I think we need to make a U-turn here. We go back.
You're Majdoub. We're going to bring you this. So Piers Morgan had an interview, and he went to Romania to interview Andrew Tate. And Piers, you know, Shaykh Yasir, I'll have you comment on Piers after this. You know, Piers has been bringing everyone under the sun on. He brought Bassem Youssef. He brings the head of the Israeli ambassador. He brings this one. He brings that one. You know, playing both sides, if you ask me, because he's getting millions upon millions of views and so much money coming out of that. But, you know, at least from the Palestinian Muslim perspective, he's letting the voices be heard.
Yeah. Well, so unfortunately, the bar is pretty low.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
you have a high bar out there, but he's so proud of himself. But in reality, the bar is like so low.
Yeah, you know, like, isn't that sad about our state, Shaykh Yasir? Like our happiness in that, oh, Piers brought on Tate. It's like, I'm pathetic for even breaking this up.
That's interesting. So if you were in Gaza as a Gazan male of masculine fighting age, and you believed the things you currently believe, what would you do about it? I'm just asking.
You know what? Nothing justifies the terrorism.
I never said you'd be a terrorist. I'm asking what you do.
No. I understand why people in Palestine feel oppressed. I understand why they want freedom. I understand why they want the same rights as the people in Israel.
Then here's a perfect...
On that we agree.
Absolutely,
but nothing Nothing justifies what happened in October.
Well, here's where we
let's pause it right there. So if you've been watching Piers, Sheikh Yasir, what's the first thing you always ask for? And then the question you always ask, do you condemn October 7th? And what is a proportionate response? Sheikh Yasir, talk to us.
You know, I think the fact of the matter is that he's coming from a very distinct frame that does not allow him to maintain any type of journalistic integrity.
Right.
And I've been thinking about a lot of these pundits now who are been out there that really, you know, they're beholden to a particular narrative that's been, you know, insisted upon them, whether they themselves believe in it or they're under direct threat to maintain it. But I think any conscious being who wants sincere understanding of history, that wants to really report the facts, that wants to really report the stories of human beings in those lands, then obviously the story is much, much bigger. And so when you create these litmus tests, because it's a tactic, it's a tool to intimidate and bully people. Okay, that because first off, he puts himself as the moral authority. Right. I will now set the standard of what is moral, what is immoral, what's right, what's wrong, and I will be the one who questions. And then if you don't answer, then I have now exposed your immorality. I have exposed. So that type of duplicitousness and that idea of that self-aggrandizing, holier than thou, I am in the position of moral authority to question, is exactly what people like him don't realize. You know, it's been on my mind is that people like Piers, you know, they say these things, and they behave the way they behave, and they think they're like, you know, they think that they're the warrior on the, you know, on the horse, and like they're this just invincible person. But in reality, you know, they're exposed. Their pants are down. Everyone sees that their pants are down except them.
Right.
And so, you know, I think propaganda warfare, unfortunately, corrupts so much of truth, because at the end of the day, when you insist on obscuring and obfuscating truth, reality as it is, what academics, international relief, humanitarian agencies, the International Criminal Court, the story as it is, as as you know, Rashid Khalidi in his book, a very important book, The 100-Year War in Palestine, it gives you scope, breadth, understanding, an idea of what truth looks like, what reality is. So, you know, this has become almost like theater for him. It's theater for him, right? And like you said, I mean, he gets these Muslim or pro, you know, Palestinian voices on whatever, because in all that, it's revived his career. Like he gets the most views from Bassem Youssef's and from the guys from the UK and obviously someone like Andrew Tate. So, you know, I mean, that's Allah salama. You know, I just, you know, I'm sure you have some thoughts you want to share. Perhaps let me hear your thoughts on that.
You know, Sheikh Yasir, for me, you know, what we're doing together, looking at all these current affairs, what I always want us to do, and what we will do, is look at it from the spiritual lens of Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa ala alihi. We want to expose realities as they are, like you're doing with Piers right now. But, you know, what are the lessons for us? And, you know, when I saw Piers, and I agree with you 100%, it made me think about the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa ala alihi about thalathun muhlikat. Allah Ta'ala says that there are three things that they destroy. They'll destroy a human being. And he said, shuhun muta'a wa hawa muttaba' wa i'jab. Well, exactly, you know. And so this shuh is like it's this feeling of greed inside the heart that becomes greed when it's enacted upon.
Like right? Obey your thirst, when you're obeying your thirst.
Exactly, right. In modern parlance, is obeying your thirst. And then number two, he sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa ala alihi, it says about a whim that you follow.
Yeah.
And number three, just being impressed with your opinions and your thoughts.
Yeah. And only so, liking your own opinions and thoughts, and really preferring and thinking that your narrative is the central narrative of existence. It's very arrogant. It's very deluded. It's very self-absorbed. And when what's governing are those special interests, because if you think about it, what's at the core of what's governing all this public discourse, when you see like, especially the propagandists out there, it's interests, it's a job, a career, money, power. It's interests, not principles. It's not values. It's not morals.
Right.
It's special interests. And that's the huge distinction between like the prophetic orientation of sacred traditions of Abraham, Moses, and Jesus and Muhammad sallallahu alayhi ajma'in, and then just utilitarianism, just negotiating the world and trying to just be ahead. Like it's very evolutionary, the survival of the fittest kind of thing.
Yeah, and this, it brings me to such an interesting topic that I've been thinking a lot about. We as humans, even myself, yourself, Sajjad here, anyone that's listening, like, how do we want to live our lives?
Yeah.
Like, do we want to live our lives on prophetic guidance, or do we want to live our lives based on our egotistical whims and the greed and everything that our internal nefs are, the evil of our soul is sort of calling us to? And so, it just got me thinking so much about the state of a human being and thanking Allah Azza wa Jal that He sent the prophets to guide me to how to think, what are the parameters of where my emotions should go. Like this whole situation got me thinking, like there are families, men and women that are willing to cut off their mother and father over some stupid argument that they got into, because it's where we've let our ego and our opinions about our own thoughts and ideas just get way out of control.
Yeah.
And so
I'll tell you something, Habib, wallahi al-azim, the ni'mah of what you're talking about, the blessing of having guidance. My first khutbah that I gave after this all started, the first khutbah, a lot of people were like, what to say. And I'm like, alhamdulillah for Islam, alhamdulillah for the Prophet ﷺ. And the word that came to my mind and my heart, because in the propaganda and the intensity of that initial moment and just what's happening, it's just chaos, right? And I was like, you know what? We have, alhamdulillah, moral clarity.
Right.
As followers of Al-Habib sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we have moral clarity. And I started my khutbah by saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كُونُوا قَوَامِينَ بِالْقِسْطِ شُهَدَاءَ لِلَّهِ وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ.
Right.
Be كُونُوا قَوَامِينَ بِالْقِسْطِ. Be people of uprightness. شُهَدَاءَ لِلَّهِ, and justice. Uprightness and justice. Witnesses to God. وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ. And even if it's over yourself, or al-walidain, or your parents, or anyone beyond that point. And the Prophet Al-Habib sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Wallahi, law anna Fatima bint Muhammad saraqat. Even if Fatima, the beloved daughter of Al-Habib sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if she were to steal, I would punish her. So in our tradition, we don't have a problem to say, for example, if a Muslim did wrong, that's wrong. That's not a moral, we don't have a moral issue. If someone did something objectively, identifiably, right, objectively and identifiably wrong, then a Muslim has no, even if it's my father, my mother, it doesn't matter. I will say that's wrong. That's not a problem we have. That's a moral quandary for others.
Right.
Utilitarian who have agendas. That's not a moral quandary for us.
Yeah.
But also, you see how Allah starts. He says, "Kunu qawwamina bil qist." There's justice that has to be established on the earth. There has to be balance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, "Rafa'a as-sama' wa wada'a al-mizan." He lifted the skies and He placed the scale. The scale of what? The scale of justice. The scale of balance. Because when we start lying, stealing, corrupting, polluting, destroying, and we start then imbalance. So there has to be, when you speak the truth, you have to try to be bringing the balance back, right? It's not just a matter of, I have to speak the narrative that tells the exact, line of thought that my people in my group, we don't have that idea. As Muslims, we've never been raised to think that way or process life in those terms. That's not how we think. We think about how many stories do we have from our Seerah, Habib? Of and thereafter of people who were not Muslim, who were Christians and Jews, who the haqq was with them. Sayyidina Ali, he adjudicated for a Jew over a Muslim.
Right. Yes. So many.
We're leaders and whatever. And the truth is the truth. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you are. Truth is truth. Justice is justice. Falsehood is falsehood. And so if we're not going to be principled, morally driven people who think about this, then then you'll see the corruption, you'll see the pollution, you'll see the destruction, you'll see the pain, you'll see the suffering. Because existence, life, this reality of the divine that he's created for us does not tolerate, the existence as is does not tolerate imbalance. It just doesn't. That's why the world is like screaming out today. Enough is enough. We're suffocating. The world, it's not a Muslim thing, but it's a human thing. The world is screaming out. Enough is enough. We can't take this anymore.
Yeah, and that's why, I keep this. What really got me to, especially this week, it hit me. Like, I'll be honest with you, I got really sad, and I got sad. Of course, Gaza is teaching me so many lessons, and I got sad about my own state, my own shortcomings, the sadness of the whole community. Because once we leave that prophetic guidance, nothing is going to change. It just won't change, because ultimately nations and states are made up of the individuals that inhabit them. And so if my heart is corrupt and I lie, I cheat, I steal, I just get angry and go overboard with my anger, then that's what's going to be the reality of the place that I live in and how I operate in my businesses, in my political places, in my work, even in my place of worship. You have so many problems in masajid. Why? Because it's filled with individuals that still haven't really gotten too serious yet about changing the spiritual states within them. And so, subhanAllah, I want you to comment on this, because Sayyidina Nabi sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa ala alihi also says, thalatha munjiyat, the three that are the saviors. And al-adlu fil ghadabi wal rida, wal qastu fil faqri wal ghina, wa khashyatullahi ta'ala fi sirri wal alaniya. There are three things that are the, how would you translate the munjiyat? Like they are the savior. Yeah, that save you. And he says, Allah ta'ala alayhi wa ala alihi, he says, al-adlu fil ghadabi wal rida. This is, we have so much to cover today. But like here, like
justice, that you are just in anger and in happiness and contentment. You have to be just. That's, by the way, to be a morally upright, principled person. That's why when the Prophet ﷺ, when he said, "Unsur akhaka zaliman aw mazluman," bring victory to your brother, as whether they are oppressing or unoppressed or oppressed. So the companion said, Ya Rasulullah, and this was a statement of the Arabs, the Jahili Arabs, the pre-Islamic Arabs. They would say this, we bring victory to our brothers whether they are oppressing or they are oppressed. So the Prophet ﷺ repeated this. And so the companion said, Ya Rasulullah, because now, see, look at their moral compass. It's shifted. So they're saying, Ya Rasulullah, we know how to bring victory to the oppressed, but how do we bring victory to the oppressor? The Prophet ﷺ said, Imsik ala yaday. You stop the oppressor. Tell them stop. Don't do that anymore. You do that in your home. If you have a relative who's oppressive in their home, you stop them. You tell them stop doing that. Don't treat your family that way. Don't treat your children that way. Don't treat your community that way. Stop treating people that way. If you see someone in the supermarket harming other person, you say stop that, because we have a brotherhood, by the way, that extends beyond the boundaries of Islam. Imam Nawawi says that the ukhuwa is fil insaniya, right? So I have to tell people this is wrong. What you're doing is wrong. That's why it requires a lot of courage.
It does, but Shaykh Yasir, I'm realizing is people are so caught up in their emotions. Like, I can't believe you just, I can't believe you just told me what I'm doing is wrong. Ya Habibi, I love you. I have to tell you. And then they get angry at you at the fact that you're telling them that what you're doing is violating the sanctity of their spiritual realities of their own soul, and violating what Al-Habib ﷺ came with, and violating what Allah wants us to do. We have to be able to take criticism when it comes for the benefit of our own. We have to learn how to listen. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu arda used to say, I would want to give a gift to the individu who brought me my shortcomings, because you'd be so happy, because we're not seeing Wallahi.
Allah's mercy be upon the one who gifted me as a gift my uyub, my shortcomings. One of the other two munjiyat, just so that we finish it.
He sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa ala alihi, he says, نعم, والقصد في الفقر والغنى. تفضل.
Yeah, you have to be balanced in times of poverty and in times of wealth. You never go into excesses. You never, you have to see, because it's telling you principled. You have to be tempered, centered, and balanced all the time. Angry, happy, be just. Be balanced when you're wealthy or you're impoverished. And the last one is
And the last وخشية الله في السر والعلانية.
And the fear of Allah and the thoughtful presence of the divine, being in awe of Him, في السر, when you're alone, and in alaniya, and in public. So that shows you its moral consistency, its moral sincerity. It's not being a hypocrite. Hypocrisy is a haliqa, it destroys. When you're a hypocrite, when you say one thing behind closed doors, and then you come out to the people with another thing, right? And you're playing this game, trying to manipulate and pull the wool over people's eyes. Okay, press the gas on this. Here's your talking points. Here's your talking points. Here are your questions. Go only talk about this. Even you have this, and subhanAllah, you see this in the most public, where millions of people are watching, in media and so on, and then you'll see this in like marital disputes.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm telling you, we're talking. You have to be held accountable for 1, 2, 3. But how about 1, 2, 3, 4 over here? But hold on. We're gonna get to 1, 2, 3, 4. But to resolve 4, 3, and 5, we have to talk about 1, 2, 3, 4. You can't. And subhanAllah, so it's the same logic. And the fitra, the natural primordial state of the human being today, knows this moral inconsistency doesn't work. It doesn't settle, and that's why you think you're able to like win the arguments and play the theatrical performance and try to like deceive, so that the person who's in front of you, whether it's the person arbitrating your marital dispute or people watching in the public arena, the people internally know, this doesn't add up. This is not right. Something's off.
Yeah. You may have won because you're more eloquent, or you may have won because you're willing to take things to such a disgusting extreme that I'm going to be like, hey, I'm not willing to go there. Fine. What do you need from me? Okay, it's over. Yeah. And so, you know, that's why this whole thing just got me sad. It got me so reflective. And, you know, subhanAllah, I wasn't intending into getting this deep with you, but like, you know, I do want to talk to everyone out there. And I want you also to comment on, you know, like our ability to have open, honest, brokered, fierce conversations with each other. Like we've lost, even in our own homes, you know, in our marital issues that come up, like we need to be able to listen to what the other side's saying. And we need to be able to have fierce conversations and take criticism, because we want to be reflective. Like the whole idea of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sending messengers to us, and the greatest of all messengers, so that He can get us to the next state of being, a next state of refinement. You know, I've got a coach in MMA. His name is Southside, Coach John. And every day I work out with him. Man, he turns up the heat. And every day I think like, okay, we got to where we get to, no workout can actually get worse than this. And then the next day he puts on his gloves. He says, let's go. And it's worse than before. And it's very difficult to be put through that fire at the moment, Shaykh Yasir, but it's what's actually helping me grow. What I've realized is most people, we don't want to be put through the fire. I want to be complacent. You know, you need to, Shaykh Yasir, listen, you need to accept me how I am.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's unfortunately, Habib, that is the world that dominates in such a perverse way, in the sense that it's no longer about truth.
No.
You know, the famous philosopher out of Princeton who said that we live in an age of feelings, right? You know, one of these pundits on the interwebs, as they call it, jokingly, he says that facts don't care about your feelings. But now this person, he's a you know, super staunch, you know, pro-Israeli, doesn't see anything else but like that paradigm. Now he can't handle the idea of facts because and so what he's been saying for years to people, facts don't care about your feelings. Well, Mr. So-and-so, facts don't care about your feelings, right? And you can have all the pent-up, emotive, expressive, aggressive, you know, crying out, bleeding heart. Oh my God, I'm the. But there's facts. There's facts, and that's something that, you know, Dr. Jackson, may Allah bless him. We were in a conference once together, and he said something. He said, you know, as a people, as human beings, we have to be able to speak truth to pain. Someone kind of like revolted. How could you speak truth to pain when someone is in pain? You can't speak truth to that. You have to empathize. You have to sympathize. You have to validate. This person said you have to validate the pain. So Dr. Jackson says, speaking the truth is the empathy. It is the sympathy. It is that. And it's not about being, excuse the harsh language, a jerk. It's about when you speak the truth, when you give nasiha, sincere advice, then you are helping this person, because on the day of judgment, this person will say, if you let the person just go forth in their false narrative, the narrative that they've constructed in their mind about what reality is and what should be and where I stand, and etc., and you let them kind of exist in that delusional state, then on the day of judgment, they're going to come and say, wait, hold on. Sidi, Habibna, you knew this about me and you didn't tell me? And then so I need my haqq from Moutasem because he didn't tell me when he could have told me, when he knew. I'll tell you, subhanAllah, I'm going to tell you such an interesting story. One of our shuyukh, Shaykh Imad rahmatullahi alayhi, he was a beautiful man, a man of Allah, and just those who know him know who he is, rahmatullahi alayhi. This man was so, mashallah, sincere. So one time we're going into his class, and one of the students, a brother by the name of Muhammad, this is when I was studying in Egypt, he was like, Shaykh Imad unfriended me on Facebook. He was
I like Shaykh Imad already.
He was devastated. Like, how can Shaykh Imad unfriend me on Facebook? Now, listen to this, subhanAllah. Listen to like the ikhlas. So he goes, so after the class, we're sitting down. He's like, Shaykh Habibna Maulana, I noticed that you unfriended me from Facebook. Did I do something wrong? Are you? No. He said, am I mad at you? Are you mad at me? He said, no, I'm not mad at you. So he's like, why did you unfriend me? So he said, because you say so much stuff on Facebook, and I need to correct you. I need to give you nasiha. I need to give you guidance, but I don't have the time. And I can't, but listen to this. He says, I can't allow myself to see the stuff that you're saying that needs to be corrected or guided and not do that guidance, not make that correction, not give you that nasiha. So it's healthier for me spiritually to unfriend you so I don't have to see what you're writing, and I can just, you see what, because what he's saying is, Man ra'a minkum munkaran. Those who see something wrong, they have to fix it. So he's operating from a very prophetic place. So the result for him was, I should not actually consume his stuff, because unless I'm going to give him the nasiha that I believe he needs, then therefore I should not, consume what he's writing. And this is like, Muhammad's not writing anything like that's egregious or just like simple things. But you see how in tune he is with the prophetic spirit, that it led him to these types of actions.
And what an amazing
came from love, nothing else, subhanAllah.
Yeah, and we need to be able to accept that. SubhanAllah, you're making me think so many times when I was traveling with Shaykh Mukhtar or Shaykh Muhsin, how they do that, because for them, they want us to be right with Allah and His Messenger, alayhi salatu wasalam. They don't want us just to get to Jannah. They want us to be like the highest levels of Jannah. And I'll never forget, so many times traveling with Shaykh Muhsin, if he sees me doing something that I could either do better or that is flat out wrong. There's two aspects, right? There's an improvement in character. Like, what you're doing is good, but it's not the best. There's another level he wants me to be aware of. Hey, you're here, get it over here. And then there's when you're out of bounds and he needs to put you back in bounds. And so, the Shaykh Muhsin style, would always be like, Moutasem, what do you think about Sidna Nabi? This is how he would start it. Like, he's the greatest. He goes, why did Allah send the Prophet to us, ya Moutasem? I'm like, to guide us. And he goes, what does he say about him in the Quran? I said, وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. You're on vast moral character. He goes, and don't we want his character, ya Moutasem? Wouldn't that be beautiful to have his state of character? I said, oh boy, it's coming right now. And then he would literally gift to me the gifts. I'll tell you a story, Shaykh Yasir. When we went on the Umrah, myself, you, Shaykh Muhsin, mom, my sister Summer. So, my mom, she's older and she has knee problems, so we're taking a wheelchair. And so we were getting into the Haram of Mecca al-Mukarramah, to the Kaaba, at nighttime, and they had just closed the entrance for any wheelchairs to go around the Mataf. So that means you can't be around the Kaaba. This is just right before COVID. So if you have a wheelchair, you got to go up. So it's me at that point, my sister and Shaykh Muhsin and my mother. And I'm looking at Sheikh Muhsin, and I'm like, no, Sheikh Muhsin, go, just go do the tawaf around the Kaaba, and I'll take Mom up. He goes, no, I'll come with you. Don't worry about it. I'm like, Sheikh Muhsin, please. I was getting really embarrassed. I'm like, no, Sheikh, please, you go. I'll catch up with you later. I pushed like 3 or 4 times like this, and then he stops and he looks at me. He goes, Moutasem, let me ask you a question. I said, oh, here we go. He goes, if Sayyidina Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam was with us right now, do you think he would leave your mother and go around the Kaaba while you went at the furthest point? I said, I can't imagine that, Sheikh Muhsin. He goes, so let's be like Sayyidina Nabi. And it was this, beautiful ta'deeb. So Sheikh Yasir, I want to get into this because, Piers and Tate and all of these arguments and conversation, let's take it to the micro level. These are just macro realities that we're seeing in with the Zionist oppression and the Israeli genocide force, formerly known as the IDF, and what they're doing. In my family, what we set up is something that's really difficult, and it's about having fierce and open, honest conversations, and we do it here as families in Maryland, and there's principles to it. There's principles to getting through difficult times in life as problems come up with everyone. And this is what we share with each other. Number one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, إِنَّمَا الشَّيْطَانُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌ إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌ فَاتَّخِذُوهُ عَدُوًا. That our enemy, my enemy is not Sajjad. Sajjad, are you my enemy? No, you're my brother. And, brothers sometimes have a bump in the road, right, Sheikh Yasir? The concept, but what ends up happening is that we take those relationships that have been good for 15, 20 years, and Sajjad or Maryam or Aisha do one little thing, and then what do we do to them? We throw them out. They're no good. I knew for the past 20 years he's been hiding those feelings. La ya Ammi Sheikh, he's human. He made a mistake. Maybe you caused the mistake, right? So don't judge upon them from that perspective. Allah tells us the shaitan is your enemy. Take them as your enemy. But what does he tell us about the believing body, Sheikh Yasir? إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ. But when he talks about the relationships that we have to each other, we're brothers and sisters, so have sulh. So we start and we say, like, these are the objectives. We're not getting up off of this table, no matter how low the conversation may go, except that we are going to recognize these principles. The devil's our enemy, and you're my brother, and I have to get to a place of sulh. And no matter how hard it is, I need to get there. Then we tell each other we have to be introspective. Like, it's like you said, I see your pain by giving you 5 times the pain that you caused me. I got you right back. Oh, you did that. Well, I did that because you did A, B, C, D, F, G. No, I'm sorry. I apologize. It wasn't intended that way. And I'm sorry to make you feel that way. And so, for me, having the ability to conversate and get through the muck and the gunk of problems is so important. And Sheikh Yasir, the concept, and maybe you want to talk about it now, al-istishabu bil-asl, it's a very important concept, that can be applied to all relationships.
No, I think, now I'm sure you have some videos you'll probably want to pull up, but I think the question of sincerity is so essential, in that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he gave us these souls, he gave us these hearts, and he expects from us with this capacity, because what we have within us, the ability to think and feel the way we can, and the fact that we have thoughts that can govern and dictate and indicate of who we are and what we are and where we want to go. Sincerity is so critical, because wrong turn after wrong turn, wrong decision after wrong decision, wrong approach after wrong approach, not thoughtless, just mindless, causes so much harm. And then worse off is that if the thought and the feelings are governed by the nafs, the lower self, or satanic impulses. Like I gave the talk in Pearls of the Quran about there being two sulalas, 2 lineages that human beings can follow.
Right.
And I just published the talk on Al-Madina. One sulala is one lineage is the lineage of Satan. The other lineage is the prophetic lineage. The satanic lineage is the following. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Satan to prostrate and bow, Satan said, Ana, I am. He asserted himself. I am better. I am better. No, I should not. I should not have to. I am. He has a narrative, a story. He's beholden to it. He feels it viscerally. He's ready to go to war with God, billah, to fulfill his person-centric, self-centered narrative. In contradistinction to the satanic one is the prophetic one. Al-Habib sallallahu alayhi wasallam, our beloved messenger, when he first received revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the first words uttered out of his mouth were, Ma ana, I am not.
Allah.
I am not. And that's very sincere. I don't know. He said, I don't know how to. I don't know how to. I am not. I am not. Ma ana, ma ana. And the believer always disposes themselves in a humble, prostrating state to be taught, to learn. I have to, if I'm Yasir, I have this, I have that, I'm experienced, I've studied, all this kind of stuff. But am I not in a position to be corrected? 100%. I'm sure I've made plenty of mistakes. I will continue to make plenty of mistakes. I need sincere people to guide me, to show me my ways, to teach me. And so my nasiha, my advice to myself, to everyone who's listening, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, atheist, doesn't matter. Be sincere. Challenge yourself to consider the possibility that you have it all wrong, that you're stuck in your narrative. And be courageous, because sometimes I don't have the courage to say I'm wrong. It's too much. It's too heavy on my heart. I'd rather just, throw a smoke bomb, like a smoke bomb or something, just distraction. Get away from me. Don't talk to me. Run away. Cancel. Aggress. No, be courageous and say, wait, hold on. Maybe I have. And mashallah, I'll tell you something. Over the past period, endless videos from these different platforms people say, oh my God, I have been getting it all wrong all the time, even from within the ranks of the IGF.
Yeah, absolutely. And, to that point, because we're going to close this segment now as we move on. Piers keeps asking, and Piers, you keep asking, what is a proportionate response? As if you are so veiled that you cannot see that what is happening is completely disproportionate. And you don't want to call it a genocide, Piers. You want to call it something else. Well, okay, just call it a massacre. Yeah. And I'll tell you, in the IGF, the Israeli Genocide Forces massacre towards the Palestinians, Piers, if you think this is proportionate, you have a major problem. The population of Gaza is about 2.2 million. 1.7 million of them are displaced. Yeah. They have destroyed over 125 health facilities, Piers. 75% of the livable homes in Gaza are gone. They're no longer livable. Over 17,000 people have been killed, and about half of that, or 7,000 of them, are children. Gaza is no longer a livable place and space. So if you don't want to call it a genocide, don't call it a genocide, Piers. We know you're getting paid from certain sources that will not allow you to get into that sort of dialogue. But in this massacre, if that is not enough for you to show you that this is not a proportionate response, then Piers, what is it that will? Is it that all Palestinians need to die? And then at that point you say, now I understand it was not a proportionate response.
No, he's still going to be confused. He's going to be like, this is so perplexing. What is proportionality? It's like he's like a philosopher who's in an existential crisis about the concept of proportionality. Habib, I'll tell you something. The world has spoken 10 times over, not one time over. And as I said, these individuals, they're walking with their pants down and they don't realize that their pants are down. But you know what? When you have 300 Holocaust survivors condemning what's happening in Palestine, 300 Holocaust survivors condemning, I think that's all you need to know. That's all you need to really know. When you have human beings who've gone through true evil, now saying this is evil, this is wrong, this is condemnable, then you have what you need to know, right? And and that's why it's so important. And as you pull up the next clip, inshallah, it's so important that we make this dua. And I want this for us and everyone to hear this. Ya Allah, Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan. Show us truth. Show us truth, apparently as so. Arina al-haqqa haqqan. And bless us to follow the truth. Wa arina al-batila batilan. And show us falsehood, apparently as falsehood. And bless us to stay away from it. And that's as human beings on this earth, that's all we can hope for, is that we follow the truth and never the falsehood.
Ya Rabbi. So we're going to move. We're already 45 minutes into our conversation, but I want to move and I want to introduce our audience to the Psycho of the Week. Another crazy, deranged man who, as Shaykh Yasir told us earlier, the tongues just articulate what's in the hearts. Now, what's crazy about this man, Sajjad's going to pull up the clip in a minute. I'll tell you when to put it up, Sajjad. Give me just 1 second. Sajjad, everyone on the internet thanks you for the amazing work that you have been doing. May Allah bless you. May Allah increase you in all khair. Ya Rabbi. Shaykh Yasir, say Ameen.
I said it.
So the New York Times, a former State Department employee and national security official, was recorded on video harassing a halal food vendor in Manhattan in recent weeks, calling the man a terrorist. Let me introduce you to this person. The former official, Stuart Seldowitz, was recorded in several videos posted on X, formerly known as Twitter, taking pictures of the vendor and berating him with Islamophobic comments. After a brief back and forth about children being killed, Mr. Seldowitz tells the man, if we killed 4,000 Palestinian kids, you know what? It wasn't enough. Now, before I show the world this video, Shaykh Yasir, here's why there is no solution to the conflict between Palestine and Israel. This man was responsible for the relations between Israel and Palestine in the State Department. This psycho, this deranged human being, and you're going to understand why I'm saying that in one moment, was responsible for that connection. So I want everyone to see what he says. Sajjad, can we play it? There's some.
My friends in immigration. Really? Okay, go, yeah. And to the Egyptian, the Mukhabarat wants your picture. Okay, yalla, go. Yeah? You know the Mukhabarat? The Mukhabarat.
No, I don't know.
You don't know?
I just speak English.
No?
Yeah, go, yeah.
Mukhabarat in Egypt will get your parents.
Go.
Does your father like his fingernails? They'll take them out one by one.
Yalla, روح من هنا. يلا, go.
Why should I go? Why should I go? Tell me why I should go. I'm standing here. I'm an American. I have free. It's a free country. It's not like Egypt.
That's crazy. Yeah. And let's pause it there, Shaykh Yasir. I'm going to give you the opinion. There are worse clips than this. I just don't want to play because he says some terrible things.
He says some very nasty things about Habib sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he then, very brazenly and genocidally and darkly says 4,000 children were not enough. Killing. I just, I'll tell you something, and I'm sure a lot of us have been feeling this. I think the sheer volume of just sadistic, sick, genocidal language that we have seen over the past 6 weeks is very alarming. It's very unsettling. And then it's been like from top to bottom. You see it from the level of the prime minister, the cabinet, the Knesset. You have national broadcast, like Israeli national broadcast speaking in language that's beyond the pale. You have, so-called, Zionist rabbis talking about, here in the U.S., talking about how killing children is a moral imperative because they'll grow up to be terrorists. How many different people, in all strata of life have spoken about flattening Gaza, burning it down, decimating it. You had 50 Zionist doctors say, Israeli Zionist doctors say, destroy all the hospitals of Gaza. The volume, I think what has unsettled so many people today is the volume of genocidal rhetoric, of just hate-filled ethno-supremacist rhetoric. Really, it's like those animals, those dogs. And this is not talking about a faction. This is talking about the Palestinian people. They're subhuman. They're the TikToks made by people mocking mothers, acting, they don't have teeth, they have missing teeth, and, mocking the babies. Children singing songs. They actually produced children singing songs about genocide, about the genocide of the entirety of Gaza. And so I think this is extremely disconcerting, very alarming. And And it bodes the question, like, what is this? What is this ideology? Where is this coming from? Because I'll tell you this, I know plenty of Jewish people. I know plenty of Jewish people who would find this abhorrent. They would find this disgusting. I know this for a fact. Like, this is like, I know plenty of Jewish people in interfaith spaces and other spaces who would find the volume of genocidal language. You have Israeli genocidal force people with Israeli pop singers singing up and down before committing their genocide about how they're going to level Gaza, destroy it, kill every last one. And then I can't even use the language that they're using like the N-word on the Palestinians. The daughters of like I don't speak that way. I don't want to speak that way. Just like, and so when you see the volume, and it's not 1 or 2 or 10, it's so what is this? This is not Judaism. I can't, like, as Muslims who've coexisted beautifully with Jews, by the way, for over 1,000 years, and we should talk about that. Then what we're seeing today is something different. It's because I know scores of Jews who would say this is not us. That does not represent us. So that has to be something else. And that other thing must be this political ideology known as Zionism. Like, because Zionism is here, Judaism is here. They have to be two different things, because what ideology, what's governing this thought, this behavior, this style of speech, these actions? What is it? It's not a sacred tradition that spans thousands of years. It has to be something else. And it's a political ideology that's 100+ years old, that's Eurocentric. It was birthed in Europe, and that type of ethno-supremacist discourse was very prevalent in Europe at that time. And it was founded by an atheist who's not even a practicing Jew. And then that was then imported into sacred lands. So you have an ethno-supremacist, Eurocentric political ideology that then subverted and came in and caused, from the beginning, from the outset, endless suffering, endless pain. The lands, those sacred lands, never experienced terrorism until the Haganah and the Irgun, those initial real identifiable terrorists, even by Israeli historians, who killed. You saw the documentary Tantura?
No, I did not see it.
Oh, everyone has to watch this documentary Tantura. It's painstaking. It's wallahi, it's vile to no end. But it's a account. The one who started the research on Tantura was an Israeli PhD student who ultimately published this into a documentary. And it sits down with those individuals who engaged in massacres, in ethnic cleansing, killing, raping, laughing about burning people alive, laughing. So the guy asked him, how many people did you kill? He's like, I don't know. I had 250 bullets. We killed endlessly. We burned people. We told them, put your chun in the oven. And he put it in the... Sure. You're listening to this. And then that was, by the way, that was one of 20-something massacres. One of 21. Now, that as it is, as an occurrence, never existed in those sacred lands. Who brought that? What ideology brought that? It's Zionism. It's a Zionistic, political, atheistic ideology that's so far removed from the sacred traditions of Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. Because before that, everyone has to know a historian by the name of Avi Shlaim. He is someone who has brought to the forefront the history of Arab Jews. Brothers and sisters, when you see the distinctions, the parallels between what was happening in the Arab lands, the Arab Muslim lands, from Morocco all the way to Iran, for 1,000 years, and you compare that to the experience of Jews in Europe, it's night and day. Yeah. The Jews of Europe suffered, and they suffered poorly, and that makes any human being's heart, wallahi, it makes any human being's heart tremble at the suffering of what happened to the Jews in Europe. But that was not by any stretch of the imagination the experience of Jews in the Muslim world. And we can talk, by the way, we can do a whole other gathering just about how Jews thrived in the lands of the Muslimin. This Avi Shlaim, he says something very interesting. He says, listen to this. He said, I left Iraq, because he left in 1948. And there was 60,000 Jews, 60,000 Iraqi Jews. He said, I left Iraq as a Jew. And I arrived in Israel as an Iraqi. He's indicating that I was able to maintain and celebrate the fullness of my Jewishness. And my father was a judge, and we thrived. And the accounts, by the way, of the thriving is it's beautiful, beautiful how Muslim, Christians, Jews lived beautifully, coexisted. And then he says, I arrived in Israel as an Iraqi, meaning I immediately became a second-class citizen because it was ethno-supremacist. It was European, nothing to do with Judaism. It was European. It was ethno-supremacist. It was a political ideology. It was about land grabs and this and that. And so we have to, as Muslims, we have to think and study and learn and make these distinctions and talk to our interfaith and our Jewish friends about these distinctions. There has to be a distinction between Judaism and Zionism.
And on that note, Sajjad, if we can, there's a clip, Sajjad, I sent you from Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro. I'll give you a second to pull it up. So in terms of who's making that distinction, there are individuals like Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro. From what I've heard of him so far, he's clearly making that distinctions. And we've heard the Jewish voices for peace that are out there and saying, not in our name, that what the IGF, the Israeli Genocide Force, is doing and what the Zionist oppression is doing is not Judaism. Complete separation. It's been a complete takeover, as Sheikh Yasir has brought up to our attention. And so there's this clip, and we're just going to play just a minute of it. And here he's talking about, just to give everyone some framing for this in this conversation, and everyone should listen to this conversation. He's framing what is Zionism, what is Judaism, and how Zionism has been trying to take over Judaism. If we could play that, Sajjad.
Well, everything about Judaism is spiritual. God, angels, law, miracles, Moses, splitting of the sea. That's Judaism. They wanted to take Judaism and change it into a political thing, a political identity. That's Zionism. And really the goal of Zionism, the ultimate goal of Zionism, is to purify the Jews and to rehabilitate the Jews and to rebrand the Jews such that instead of being people like me, which everybody hates because they've had anti-Semitism throughout the centuries, people are going to become like Benjamin Netanyahu or Ariel Sharon, who everybody loves, right? That was their plan. Didn't work out that way, but that was their plan. They're going to win gold medals. They're going to win Eurovision contests. They're going to be normal people. They're going to have an army. And of course, that was the main thing that they hated about the Jews. The Jews were big pacifists. They ran rather than fought.
So when he's saying they, he's talking about the Zionists and those who wanted that political land grab identity. And so, I want to make it very clear here, because what we have been trying to do from the beginning of this series from a few weeks ago is recognize the Jewish voices for peace and recognize those who are standing strong for God and for morality and for uprightness, no matter what community they come from. And we're trying to make it very clear to all of our listeners that the Zionists and what were happening coming through Netanyahu do not represent Judaism, do not represent the core teachings of what the Jews have and what they came from. And it's interesting, Sheikh Yasir, now that there's I think a 4-day ceasefire, like I saw a clip of Netanyahu the other day, and he's like, don't be fooled. We're just not fighting for 4 days, but we are at war. As soon as those 4 days are done, we're back at it.
Yeah, and I want to make it very clear, and I think it's so important that as a Muslim community and as just a human community, that really there was a time, and it wasn't too far off, not too far long ago, that there was a lot of beauty, a lot of, and alhamdulillah, in so many pockets it still exists. Like, I mean, all of us who are Muslims have Jewish friends, have Christian friends, and the false narrative, this absolute lie that is trying to be thrusted upon the Muslim community and others, that somehow we're anti-Semitic, or the Muslims or others are just thirsty for to see the end that is of Jews. That is an absolute lie. It is a contravention of history. It has nothing to do with our sacred tradition. Because when you read historians like Avi Shlaim, when you read historians like Ilan Pappé, when you read their accounts, and these are Ilan Pappé is an Israeli who himself, defected from this ideology of Zionism, right? You have the likes of Norman Finkelstein. You have the likes of Gideon Levy. You have, and the list goes on of thinkers and historians and anthropologists. And I'm not even mentioning like 1/10 of them. And because those are people who are like, hold on, wait, there's a different reality. And Muslims, that's why it has to be categorically clear. Being anti-Zionism has nothing to do with anti-Semitism at all. We have, as Muslims, zero problem, zero issue with Jews, zero. We've harmonized and lived beautifully from the time of the Medinan Pact in our seerah, the times of Sayyidina Umar, when the Sayyidina Umar went to take over, went into Jerusalem, the Romans had exiled all the Jews. It was the Caliph Umar who brought back 80 Jewish families who had been exiled. And that's been our heritage, it's been our lineage. History shows it, and it's not just us who've written it. It's not like some self-serving history. No, there are plenty of accounts written by others. There is Jewish historians who have written, and we can talk about endlessly about this. So being critical and being, yes, harshly critical of a political ideology like Zionism has nothing to do with being anti-Semitic. Now, people like to play games out there, and they like to play on the emotion, say, oh, this is just a code word. When they critique Zionism, it's a code word because they hate you and they want to see you gone. That's a lie. Wallahi al-azim. By Allah, it's a lie. And by the way, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Jews, if not much more, know this. And they advocate. That's why if you critique Zionism as a Jew, you're a self-hating Jew.
Yeah,
Notice the language.
Yep.
If you critique Zionism as a non-Jew, you're an anti-Semite.
Yep.
That's all propaganda. It's lies. And humanity has awakened to this. Humanity knows. And so as Muslims, wallahi al-azim, we will continue to live beautifully and harmoniously alongside our Jewish brothers and sisters. We will continue to be beloved neighbors, caring, tending. And if people, and I want to say this. I know people are out there struggling, confused, scared. Some people who've maybe been in an ideological bubble don't see beyond what they think is like the absolute truth. Find Muslims and talk to them. Discuss. You'll find that Muslims, the only language we have taught our children, just like I teach my children, to look at for the Prophet ﷺ before they sleep, the language that I teach my children, that my parents taught me, and that my parents taught them. Growing up, my father tells me about in 1940s Egypt, the relationships they had with Egyptian Jews and Egyptian Christians, and there was no issues. It's what's painful and wallahi genuinely saddening is how this political ideology came into those lands and sowed so much evil and hatred. It's so bad. Like, it really is such a sad moment to see like how much, and I pray, wallahi, I really want to see beautiful harmony. Alhamdulillah, like it exists in so many pockets of the world today. And I want to only see that harmony extend to all corners of the earth, Ya Rabbi.
I mean, Ya Rabbi, for all of us. And so, Shaykh Yasir, we're coming towards the close of the hour, but I want us to have an iman boost, a faith boost. And there's this video of a woman in Palestine in her home. And subhanAllah, again, Ahl Gaza and the people of West Bank are rejuvenating the faith of the world. They're forefront in all of our lives, all of our hearts, and they are teaching us what it really means to be people of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, not people of this dunya, people who recognize that the akhirah is true, and they give everything that they have, the most precious thing, their own lives, to enter into that reality, the beautiful reality of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Sajjad, can you bring up this clip of this woman? I don't know who she is, Shaykh Yasir, but look at this. I want all of us just to watch this together. At home. Bombed out. Destroyed. You're watching the game. There she is. Doing her laundry and taking care of her. Look at this. This is like true. I don't even know what it is, Shaykh. What can I say? You look at her home, and we're here in the States, fighting over wanting to buy a bigger piece of land. complaining about that our car is like 2 years old and the latest version has come out and we have to get that, making all these additions to our homes just because we think we're going to live forever. Ya ma'ashar al-Muslimin, we need to wake up. We need to wake up. This dunya is going to end. And then when we're Allah and His Messenger, والسلام, and the nature of the dunya is the more of it that we have, the more we want to consume. And is it ever enough, Shaykh Yasir? It's never enough. And how did Shaykh Yasir, how did Sidna Nabi, oh, we started with him, we end with him. Wallahi, this woman, she took us back to Sidna Nabi. What did he used to sleep on, Shaykh Yasir?
Simple straw mat.
Straw mat. That's all he was. See, and to the extent that the marks of the straw mat would be on his body, because it was not a comfortable Sealy mattress. You know, they've got all these mattresses. You go to a mattress store now, it's like $5,000 mattress. Oh, but we could show you the $10,000 mattress. Oh, and now we've got cooling blankets, like this whole system that ACs your blankets for $3,000, so we can ensure that you're sleeping in pure comfort and not disturbed by the world around you. Like, we are making ourselves so weak, and we're making ourselves so attached to that which is going to end. And when the Prophet ﷺ was asked, and when they wanted to upgrade the Sahaba out of love of him, the life that he was living, he would say, what do I have to do with this dunya? What do I have to do with this dunya? I'm just a traveler passing by who took shade and rest under a tree that cast a shadow, and I'm continuing on. We need to change our attitudes. So to everyone out there that's listening to these conversations, we need to rejuvenate our faith in Allah and His Spirit. The way that we do that is by putting the akhirah, the hereafter, our return to Allah, in the front and center of our existence. هذا هو Shaykh Yasir. Shaykh Yasir, share some words, inshallah. Please go.
This is everything you're saying. Alhamdulillah, you know, we come full circle. And subhanAllah, you know, you're in the dunya, and the dunya is messy. You know, the world, it's unfortunately, you have to deal with things that are just painful, hurtful, things that are profane. And you see beautiful things. You know, you see a child excited about rain falling and drinking the water, as we watched last time. Then you see a mother just doing motherly things, walking around with a tisht, you know, that blue basin, and doing her. And subhanAllah, you know, when I looked at her, and you showed me, I didn't see that video before, by the way. It's the first time I've seen it. She reminds me of the Prophet ﷺ said, when the hour comes, the hour comes, meaning like the world around you, khalas, is ending. The world has ended. And in your hand is a seedling, plant it. The logic is like, well, I'm never going to see this seedling, you know, come into its fruition and become a tree. I'm never going to see that happening. But it's about actions. قُلْ اعْمَلُوا فَسَيَرَ اللَّهُ عَمَلَكُمْ. Do and Allah will see your actions. That is a woman, home or no home, I'm going to carry and fulfill my amanat and take care of my responsibilities, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kareem, and Allah's watching. And that's, you know, it's such a, because, you know, if you think about it, even the homes, when we're sitting in our homes the way we are right now, all this can fall apart in 30 seconds, in 1 second. We've seen that for the past 6 weeks. Just homes, just 75% of the infrastructure, whatever the percentage is, just decimated, destroyed. It's just like, and so really, if we do not believe in the core of our conviction, in that Allahumma la aisha illa aisha al-akhirah, there is no true life but the life of the afterlife. Man arada al-akhirata wa sa'a laha sa'yaha, the one who desires the afterlife and walks the walk of the afterlife. That's why, you know, for the Muslim, the dunya is it's a prison. Dunya sijnul mu'min. It's a prison. It's not for, like, we don't look, oh, I need to have everything in the dunya, everything, I'm entitled to all. It's now no. The Muslim does not think that way. The Muslim is not some like existential, you know, crisis oriented being that it has to be now. Give me now. No. We know that it's about the akhirah.
Yep.
That's why you live a tempered, balanced, beautiful, prophetic life, serving, giving, being generous, kind, loving, honoring, protecting, speaking the truth. Be prophetic every single day of your life. And then by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have the khayrat of the akhirah. You have the endless goodness. Allahumma atina fi dunya hasana wa fil akhirati hasana.
Ameen.
Allah grant us the best of this life and the best of the afterlife. And I want to say this, Habib, before I close. Wallahi,
Please.
from the depth of my heart, I want to see the Palestinian people so happy. Wallahi al-azim. As a Muslim, as a human being, I want to see them happy. I want to see them receiving all of the blessings of this dunya. I know that inshallah Allah will give them all the blessings of the akhirah. But in my heart, as like just a humble ask of Allah, Ya Rabbi, give them so much happiness in the dunya. Because the Palestinian people have been through so much. They've been through a lot of suffering, a lot of pain. Because it's day to day. It's the bully, it's the oppression, the tyranny, the terror. It's the hurt, it's the theft of your land. It's being falsely thrown into a prison. 350 kids are in Israeli prisons right now. It's endless. Your home destroyed. Some guy going and stealing your home, being bullied by some settler. It's been day in, day out. The killing, the constant killing, day in, day out, year in, year out, of innocent Palestinian people. They've been through so much. And today we see just another culmination of another level and color of just evil and harm exacted upon the Palestinian people. So I really ask Allah, Ya Rabbi, ujbur bi khawatirna, ashan khatrina, for our sake. We want the Palestinian people to experience happiness, true happiness in this dunya. And then, Ya Rabbi, give them endless happiness in the afterlife. And allow us, when I see these children, these lifeless bodies, I say, inshallah, we'll be with these children in Jannah. Ya Rab, I really hope that I see them imagine this. Think with me. You see the Prophet ﷺ at the Hawd, and he's giving people water, and you see the children of Gaza around the Prophet ﷺ, and they're happy and they're excited, and then they call us over and come and drink and be with the Prophet ﷺ, and then inshallah it's the precursor to going to Jannat al-Na'im, to be in the highest levels of heaven in the company of Sayyidina Musa and Sayyidina Isa and Sayyidina Muhammad ﷺ, Sayyidina Ibrahim. That's what it's all about. And so may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not allow this dunya, Allahumma la taj'al ad-dunya akbar hammina. Ya Rabbi, don't make this dunya the extent of our concern. We know this dunya, it's like, as the Prophet ﷺ described, it's like a rotting carcass. So, Ya Rabbi, don't make this dunya the extent of our concern. And don't allow our fitna to be in our deen. Allahumma la taj'al fitnatana fi dinina. Preserve for us our deen, Ya Rabbi. Preserve for us our love for Allah and His Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Preserve for us our love for humanity. Wallahi, our care for humanity. We want to see inna arsalnaka shahidan wa mubashiran wa nadhiran wa da'iyan ila Allah bi'idhnihi wa sirajan munira. Al-Habib sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent as a shahid, as a witness, and the one who brings glad tidings, and a warner, and a caller to the way of Allah, by the permission of Allah. دَاعِيًا إِلَى اللَّهِ بِإِذْنِهِ وَسِرَاجًا مُنِيرًا. And a beautiful, well-lit light source. I pray that we're all an extension of Al-Habib sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That we are a beautiful source of light for humanity. Wallahi. And then, Ya Rabbi, we ask for guidance for everyone to be put on this beautiful path. And then, mulaqatak fi jannatin na'im, Ya Rabbi.
Ameen. And for the community here in the States, in the West, who Allah has given you, means that we use what Allah has given us in ways that He subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. Wallah, Shaykh Yasir, I'll close, this thing with men in their watch collections. Are you aware of this? This stupidity? I'm saying it's got a stupidity.
You always throw me curveballs. I don't know where they're coming from. I'm sitting here and you throw me over there.
We take walks together, you and I, Shaykh Yasir, sometimes. We're in a forest together.
What is it about these watches?
These young men, $5,000 watches, $10,000 watches. I want to get the latest and the greatest. Oh no, it's an investment. And they come in, and really the watch is more valuable than their own homes and everything that they have. Like, young men, what are we doing? That's what we want of this world, a fancy watch. And we talked about our dear sisters, like fancy purses, $8,000 purses. Give that money to Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa ala alihi. Wallahi, we will be happier. And many of us, we have these fancy things. We have this fancy purse that's $5,000, but we don't even have $100 in the purse. We spent it all on the purse. Wallahi, it's better for you to have a plastic bag with $5,000 in it than to have a $5,000 purse with $100 in it. The point is that we need to. Oh, I'm very frustrated, Shaykh Yasir. Wallahi, I told you this week is a.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide our hearts.
Ameen.
Be beautiful Muhammadan hearts, full of light of Al-Habib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You had Dalail al-Khayrat. Let's hold it up again. Dalail al-Khayrat.
Dalail al-Khayrat. Listen, this was written by a lover, Imam al-Jazuli. He poured his heart out to Sayyidina Nabi alayhi salatu. You know what this is, Shaykh Yasir? It's a love letter. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik alayhi.
Here's the Dalail.
Shaykh Yasir, can you open up to chapter 8?
Yes.
Just so people, Shaykh Yasir, mashallah, when you recite Quran, when you recite Salah on Nabi, it brings yeah, Shaykh Yasir, you want to bring peace to my heart?
You're gonna.
You see, I'm in an agitated state. Can you just from chapter 8? Can you just read maybe 1 or 2 pages for me, just to bring
الحزب الثامن.
الحزب الثامن.
اللهم صل على محمد النبي الزاهد رسول الملك الصمد الواحد صلى الله عليه وسلم صلاة دائمة إلى منتهى الأبد بلا انقطاع ولا نفاد، صلاة تنجينا بها من حر جهنم وبئس المهاد. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وسلم صلاة لا يحصى لها عدد ولا يعد لها مدد. اللهم صل على محمد صلاة تكرم بها مثواه وتبلغ بها يوم القيامة من الشفاعة رضاه. اللهم صل على محمد النبي الأصيل السيد النبيل الذي جاء بالوحي والتنزيل وأوضح بيان التأويل، وجاءه الأمين جبريل عليه السلام بالكرامة والتفضيل، وأسرى به الملك الجليل في الليل البهيم الطويل، فكشف له عن أعلى الملكوت وأراه سناء الجبروت، ونظر إلى قدرة الحي الدائم الباقي الذي لا يموت، صلى الله عليه وسلم صلاة مقرونة بالجمال والحسن والكمال والخير والإفضال. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد عدد الأقطار، وصل على محمد وعلى آل محمد عدد ورق الأشجار، وصل على محمد وعلى آل محمد عدد زبد البحار، وصل على محمد وعلى آل محمد عدد الأنهار، وصل على محمد وعلى آل محمد عدد رمل الصحاري والقفار، وصل على محمد وعلى آل محمد عدد ثقل الجبال والأحجار، وصل على محمد وعلى آل محمد عدد أهل الجنة وأهل النار، وصل على محمد وعلى آل محمد عدد الأبرار والفجار، وصل على محمد وعلى آل محمد عدد ما يختلف به الليل والنهار، واجعل اللهم صلاتنا عليه حجابا من عذاب النار وسببا لإباحة دار القرار، إنك أنت العزيز الغفار. اللهم صل وسلم.
Amen, amen. Barakallahu feekum.
Wallahi, in the beauty of these salawat. And this is everything. This takes care of everything, suffices everything, resolves everything, puts us in the mental space, the emotional space, the physical space. اللهم ارزقنا يا رب. اللهم ارزقنا حب الحبيب صلى الله عليه وسلم. May we always be lovers of al-Habib صلى الله عليه وسلم, ملازمين للحبيب صلى الله عليه وسلم. May we always be those who are sending endless salawat upon Habib صلى الله عليه وسلم. May our salawat be for us a reason for us to be the closest to al-Habib صلى الله عليه وسلم. And that's what the Prophet ﷺ said. Those of you who make the most salat upon me will be closest to me. May we be the closest to al-Habib صلى الله عليه وسلم.
Amin. Barakallahu feekum, Shaykh Yasir. Jazakumullah anna kul khair. Thank you everyone for being with us. Bi-idhnillah, we will see you next week. Salamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.